What's going on? Jesse here, just working on the JK. Ultimately putting on my rear long arms. So got a Metalcloak set up for their rear system. Got to drop the fuel tank currently, and need to do an oil change. Probably just kind of clean up under here. My skid plate, I already dropped the aftermarket skid plate that I have protecting this. The factory still has another skid plate. Got rid of these bolts so far. That was helping hold that portion up. I do need to remove the transfer skid plate, and sure enough, I haven't taken this apart in 4 years, so I could not get to these bolts. They're just grinding down enough to where I couldn't get a socket inside there. So I went ahead and welded on some other ones. So gonna take off the transfer case skid plate and then ultimately drop the fuel tank. But I'll come back once I get that done and start working. Transfer case skid plate out of the way. I've got my jack. Well, I also have the aftermarket skid plate for my fuel tank off. I did that already. So up here, I think it was a 7mm to loosen this. I guess I got it right here. Let's make sure. Yeah, 7mm. I'll probably loosen this one and this one because I can't release it here. I'm gonna have to lower the tank just a little bit. So trying to figure out which ones I have to take off. I'm probably gonna take off the hose at the evap down here instead of up here, maybe. I don't know, we'll see. Oh, okay, well, so I don't know if this is supposed to come all the way off, but I pulled it off, and then you push up to pull out. So that's how that came off. Did it snap? Yeah, it seems like it'll snap right back on there. So that's good. Most of the things I saw, they took it off at the canister down there, so I'll probably do that. Leave that one connected. I went ahead and took off the wheels and put on jack stands. I figure that's probably the best way from keeping it moving any which way while I'm making some minor adjustments as I'm going. Starting on the passenger side, since I took off the fuel tank to get here. Now I've got some modifications, and this is something I'm always wondering is how are my modifications going to work with this. So ultimately I know I'm going to have to cut into my rocker rails here. So I'm going to have to cut out some to make room for this. I don't know how far back I'm going to have to cut, so that's going to be determined. Mocking up the plate initially. There's a passenger side and a driver's side. So ultimately my understanding is passenger side out, which looks to match up with the bolt pattern there. I was pretty excited when I was putting this up here. I was like, wow, that's going to be way up. That's going to move it a lot further. But that's really the front of the bracket. It still comes back. But it looks like hopefully it's going to help with some of the geometry. I already know I was going to have to cut back here to make room. I am going to have to figure out how to get to that bowl hole. It is behind this hole, so I'm going to have to cut into it anyways. So it's just a bummer. Other problem is it says to move it a 1/4 of an inch back from the notch here, not the weld, but the notch. Unfortunately, the weld is in the way for me getting it flush and a 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna have to grind down some of the factory weld just to be able to get the passenger side bracket in the right place. So grinding there, I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get to these bolts. I really don't want to take these off. Alright, so I'm just gonna plasma cutter my way through here. Let's see. Hopefully that picks up. All right, finally adjusted my light. Probably should have done that earlier, but I cut out a good chunk. Plasma cutter made pretty easy work out of it. I'm not sure if I'll have to cut off more, but try to keep it as structurally sound as I could. And I'm trying to do this one-handed as dang near impossible. Let's see here. All right. Wow. All right. Sorry. All over the place. Okay. So from the seam, not the weld, 1/4 inch. Pretty happy with that. So passenger side, I got it flush. I did have to just ground the bottom weld. Set this down. And I grind the bottom weld a little bit just so it would sit flush and far enough back. Outside of cutting my rocker panel here. So, all right, slowly making progress. I cut out enough of my rocker panel here so I can get the drill in. I was really worried that I was gonna have to drill both sides. Thank God it's just the exterior. You're not gonna drill on the inside. I was thinking I'd have to do the same holes because I just assumed the bolts would go all the way through, but nope, they don't. They stick in here and you just feed the back nuts. All right, so I've got everything painted up that it was raw metal. I don't know if it's going to stay here right now. It's probably to clean off the thing. So you start with the bracket itself, then the long one. Really only one way to go on. I guess there's 2 ways to go on, but it'll make sense just the way it notches up against this edge piece. I guess you could put it the other way, but it would be pretty obvious. So hopefully you can see that. So passenger side, it says to use the factory bolt. So it's would be the bolt that is going into the that would typically hold up the fuel or the gas tank. Words. So just gonna start with that 18 here. On this back side here, looks like this one's going to go in here. This will be for these 2 smaller bolts. Wow, that lines up pretty easily. 1 in, 2 in. So the package, it comes with 2 of these, or 4 of these smaller bolts, 10 of the thicker ones, and then 4 for the control arms itself. A good amount of hardware there. Hopefully that doesn't, kind of pokes out a little bit. Should be fine. So I just split them up between the 2 brackets, and it's pretty easy to see what goes where. Same with all the backside connectors. I already put this one, I dropped it in from the backside and laid it flat. So I'm going to come up from the bottom with one of the larger bolts and just kind of keep going away at it. I'm assuming the longer guys there are going to go from the front to the back for this bolt, and I think they give you 2, one for the bottom bolt, but I think I'm missing a bolt if there's another bolt, so I don't think so. We'll see. But get that in. I'm just kind of playing with it as I go. here, along here. Probably cut this one out too. All right, so I'm just kind of still mocking everything up. This is all bolted in its final location, the bracketry, but the arms, I'm just really kind of trying to square it up. I did have to move the axle back a little bit to get the original arms off, so I am going to lift it, probably grab some ratchet straps, just try to pull this side forward a little bit more. Make it easier to line up the upper and the lower, and just get it just kind of still bolting it in. It'll probably be pretty close to where it stays. So I'm slow going. I need to do that so I could just make sure that I've got my bump stops in the right spot. So I'm trying to think ahead. My 1 tons have a different suspension system, so I had to account for that bracket, which seems to be like it's going right there. So personal things that I'm doing just because of my unique build situation, but so far pretty happy with how this is all looking. So just got to try to get it to bolt in at this point. Just trying to document as I go. I wasn't able to find much information on this system. As you can see, the bracketry moves it up quite a bit. I think it was like 19 inches. It was over 1.5 feet. So yeah, pretty happy just with the overall length. You can see that one over there versus over here. It goes just behind the pillar. So I already kind of got the bracket mocked up. There's a driver side with the D and a passenger side with the P. You're just drilling on the outside, not both sides. So I'll drill these 4, and underneath here there is one in the front. Make sure you got the front in the right direction. I'm gonna, yep, front. As I'm working on it, I'm checking. I did not check that earlier, so good thing I did. Probably not a way to put it on, I guess, with driver on the right side and not have it in the front. So I guess it's hard to mess up, but if you have damaged brackets or anything like that that might be in the way, there were some lines on the back, some brake lines that I just had to push up a little bit to get this in there. Ultimately, you want to get it a 1/4 inch away from the seam here, not the weld, but the seam, the bracket itself. So let me just show you how I measure this bad boy. Oh, use the shakiness. So 25.6. Really just kind of depends on where I'm going for my measurement. 25.35. That's close enough for me. So that's in place. I'll center punch all the hole marks. I do have to cut into my rocker panel down here.
Rear long arms are coming in nicely. Got them mocked up for the most part. Working on the bump stops. Got the passenger side in where I want it. At least tacked up for now. About to tack up the driver's side. Excited to see how this comes out. I've gone ahead and finished all the installation. I've put a few hundred miles on it so far, and I really love how it drives. I haven't had a true opportunity to take it off-roading yet, but I did want to just jump back in as a conclusion because I was missing some parts. Getting the fuel tank out was pretty difficult. I think just everything was old, and I haven't touched it in a long time, so breaking everything loose, and everything just seemed rusty. So getting it out was a pain. Getting it back in by myself was even harder. So I definitely recommend help. I probably did things that you shouldn't do. I had a little bit of fuel left, but that's between me and you. So getting it in, I did end up breaking one of the plastic connections up top. There's a lot of videos about how to replace those, so I did have to go get a pin and replace that. I'll put a picture of what I'm talking about there. And the fuel tank, while it's out, you do have to cut off this bracket here. It's something that I didn't go over yet. Well, in my video I didn't film myself doing it. I just got it done. So that's the middle of the brackets on the furthest, or on the outermost passenger side. Just to give you an idea, if you don't cut it enough, you'll have to take the fuel tank off and cut it more. I ended up having to do it, I don't know, I probably dropped the fuel tank 3 times, and in doing so is how I ended up breaking that. I do need to add pressure to my bump stops back there. And then another thing was this bolt here. So I had a problem with it hitting the fuel tank going this way. So I had to drop the fuel tank, put in this lower control arm with the bolt going that way. Initially I imagined putting it through this way, just like I did on the other side, but that became problematic just based on the room here. So just something to consider. If you catch it early enough, it's going to save you some time. Because of cutting here, I had to weld something here just to give that some more support. And yeah, so just obstacles that I ran into. I did have wiring through that I ended up melting when I was cutting this, but also pinching when I was using the bolts that drop inside here. So I did have to rerun some of my electrical just for my rock lights. All right, I think that's pretty much it. Very happy with the outcome. The front long arms and the rear long arms, I would definitely recommend, especially if you're looking for a bolt-on. I did try to be pretty thorough. You could do it. You don't need a plasma cutter, but it does make it easier. Really just a grinder, drill bits, patience, and hopefully some buddies to help you with that fuel tank. Good luck.